When you're young, it feels like you've got endless energy. But listen closely. That's the heavy tread of time marching toward you. Its goal? To drain your strength and steal your fire, unless you learn how to stand your ground, like a Stoic with calm and clarity.
Chapter 1. When the engine dies with the light still on. Now listen, I've lived long enough to see folks wear every kind of badge of honor. Hard work, hustle, overtime, late nights, triple-shot lattes. And sure, some of that grit builds you, but what we're talking about today, this burnout that's eating people alive from the inside out, this ain't laziness, it's grief. Not the kind of grief that follows a funeral. I'm talking about the grief of a soul that's been grinding so long, it forgot why it started moving in the first place. We live in a time where you can be always on and never present, where you wake up tired, push through the day with caffeine and podcasts blaring in your ears, and crawl into bed only to scroll yourself into numbness. And somewhere deep down, something's breaking, quietly. And then it hits you. You're not lazy. You're mourning. You're mourning the version of yourself that used to feel excited, that had dreams not tied to deadlines or corporate KPIs. You're grieving meaning. You've lost connection with the why behind your daily what. But how can we live in the present when every second demands a performance? Emails, Zoom calls, the pressure to optimize, to improve, to monetize. Hell, we're monetizing our pain. And when your soul gets no rest, no wonder your body rebels. This kind of burnout isn't fixed with a bubble bath or a weekend in the woods. It's spiritual. It's existential. And if you don't look it in the eye, it'll eat you from the inside like rust in an old truck chassis. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And that's the turning point, friend. The work isn't about doing more or being tougher. It's about turning inward. It's about learning to sit in silence without fidgeting. It's about asking questions most folks are scared to answer. Who am I when I stop performing? What part of me is real, and what part's just noise? You see, burnout is not just fatigue. It's the collapse of meaning. It's when your soul no longer finds nourishment in the work your hands are doing. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. That step, my friend, isn't toward another productivity hack. It's toward the mirror, toward asking, "What have I lost?" and "What needs to be reclaimed?" The Stoics knew this. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." You can't always fix the system you're in, but you can rebuild the house inside yourself. You can come back to that quiet strength that doesn't depend on applause, bonuses, or 5-star reviews. Now look, I know this all sounds a little heavy, but truth is, the heaviest things in life are the ones we carry silently. Expectations, regrets, disappointments. And sooner or later, they wear you down. But you don't have to stay there. This grief you're carrying, it's not the end of the road. It's a signpost, a message from deep inside that says something's gotta change. And that change begins not with fixing the outer world, but by turning your gaze inward. That's where the soul lives. That's where the healing begins. Because burnout at its core is not weakness. It's a wounded soul asking for purpose. It's a body screaming for rest. It's a heart aching to feel again, not just do. You are not broken. You are tired. There's a difference. And just like a tree that's lost its leaves, it doesn't mean it's dead. It means it's getting ready to bloom again. But first, it needs winter. It needs stillness. So take that first step, slow and true, not toward doing more, but toward doing less with more soul. We'll talk next about why this burnout is so widespread. It's not just personal, it's cultural, it's systemic. But the antidote, that still begins with you. Chapter 2. When meaning drains out of the everyday. You ever sit down at the end of a long day and think, I did so much, but none of it really mattered? That's not just exhaustion, my friend. That's emptiness. That's meaning slipping through your fingers. We were told that if we kept moving, kept building, answering, posting, attending, we'd find success, maybe even happiness. But somewhere along the line, the everyday got hollow. Like chewing gum that lost its flavor, but you keep chewing anyway. You're not lazy. You're grieving. Grieving the loss of something deeper, purpose. Not the billboard kind of purpose, not the be a millionaire by 30 stuff. I mean the quiet sense that your actions mean something, that your work matters, that your presence matters. Socrates once said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." That's what this is. We've built a world that makes it hard to pause and examine. We're trained to go, not to look within. We become machines that forget what they were built for. But here's the truth. When life feels meaningless, it's usually not because there's nothing out there worth caring about. It's because we've been pouring ourselves into the wrong things, or everything all at once. And I get it. There's bills to pay, kids to raise, emails to answer. But the soul doesn't run on to-do lists. It runs on connection, on honesty, on peace. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, Marcus Aurelius said. And most folks, they're running thoughts 24/7 that sound like, you're behind, you're not enough, you should be doing more. Well, who said that? Who wrote that rule book? Whose voice is that in your head? Demosthenes once warned, "What a man wishes, that he readily believes." And in this culture, we wish to be praised, admired, applauded, and so we believe that's the only way to matter. But that ain't wisdom. That's a trap. Let me tell you what meaning really is. It's not some giant revelation in the mountains. Meaning is when your soul feels aligned with your actions, when what you do isn't fighting who you are. It's waking up and feeling like you belong in your own skin. It's saying no to what hollows you out and yes to what restores you, even if nobody claps. If you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. If you are at peace, you are living in the present, Lao Tzu said. And let's be honest, most of our days aren't lived in the present. We're haunted by regrets, chased by expectations, and in that tug of war, meaning slips away. That's why burnout feels like grief, because something inside has died, some sense of connection to what makes life worth living. So what do? We stop chasing applause and start listening to silence. We stop asking, what do they want from me? And start asking, what matters to me? We clear the clutter. Epictetus said, freedom is not having everything you want, but wanting everything you have. You see, the soul doesn't want everything. It wants enough. It wants truth. It wants rest that doesn't come from escape, but from knowing you're living right. Now, I'm not saying drop your job and go live in a cabin, but I am saying if your life feels like you're pouring from an empty cup, it's time to stop and refill. To attain wisdom, remove things every day, Lao Tzu said. That's right, not add, remove. Strip away the false obligations, the pretend urgency, the noise, and underneath, you might find something quiet and sacred. That's the spark of meaning, still alive, still waiting.
Chapter 3: Ancient Tools for Modern Grief. When your spirit's worn thin and your bones feel tired in a way sleep won't fix, you do not need a productivity hack. You need a soul repair. Now, I'm not talking about incense and retreats. I mean real, grounded, ancient practices that kept folks steady when the world went sideways, long before smartphones, layoffs, or endless notifications. The Stoics, the Taoists, the philosophers of dusty scrolls, they weren't armchair thinkers. They were battle-tested, exiled, enslaved, broke. And still, they found peace deeper than circumstance. Let's talk about how. 1. Clear the inner table. Epictetus once said, "The chief task in life is simply this, to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control." You burned out because you've been trying to carry everything, other people's expectations, company politics, your parents' voices from 20 years ago. Well, here's the deal. Not all of that belongs to you. So start with 2 simple columns, like Epictetus taught. Column A, what you can control. Your effort, your attitude, your next step. Column B, what you can't. Other people's reactions, the market, the weather, your past. Then let go of B. Seriously, stop dragging it through your day like a ball and chain. 2. Slow down to see clearly. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Lao Tzu. That one hit me like a brick the first time I heard it. Because burnout makes us rush, not because we're efficient, but because we're afraid. Afraid we'll fall behind, be forgotten, become irrelevant. But rushing is what blurs our vision. The ancients taught stillness, not as idleness, but as awareness. Sit, breathe, listen, walk without headphones. Write down what you're avoiding. Let quiet be your teacher. 3. Practice premeditation malorum. That's a fancy Latin way of saying, imagine the worst on purpose. Seneca taught this not to scare us, but to set us free. He wrote, "Some things torment us more than they ought to. Some things torment us before they ought to. Some things torment us when they ought not to torment us at all." Try it. That thing you dread, play it out. Lose the job, move home, embarrass yourself, then ask, could I survive that? Could I rebuild? Would it really end me? Most of the time, we're scared of shadows. Facing fear weakens it, and once it shrinks, it stops running the show. 4. Reclaim the present moment. Burnout drags us into the past, where guilt lives, or into the future, where anxiety feeds. But peace, it only lives here. Caretake this moment. Immerse yourself in its particulars. Respond to this person or that person, this challenge, this deed. Quit the evasions. Stop giving yourself needless trouble. It is time to really live. Epictetus. So if you're eating, just eat. If you're talking to your kid, listen. Don't scroll. If you're walking the dog, smell the trees. Because these simple things, friend, they're what meaning really feels like. Not big speeches, not perfect plans, just presence. 5. Let go of false identities. When I let go of who I am, I become who I might be. Lao Tzu. Sometimes burnout ain't about doing too much, it's about becoming someone we never really were. We try to be the hero, the provider, the one who never complains. We wear masks long enough, we forget our face underneath. But the soul, it knows when it's pretending. So ask yourself, what part of me is dying to be let go? Maybe it's the overachiever, the people pleaser, the always-on employee. Burnout is the soul's protest against a life that no longer fits. Let it fall away. Let it hurt. Then let something truer rise. These ancient tools ain't miracles. They won't fix your job overnight or pay your bills, but they'll fix your relationship to those things. They'll build a foundation under your feet so that when the storms hit, and they will, you don't collapse. No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus. In the next chapter, we'll talk about what happens after you begin to recover, after the fog starts lifting. How do you rebuild a life not just free of burnout, but full of meaning? Let's walk that road together.
Chapter 4. Rebuilding Meaning from the Ashes. There's a moment, quiet and strange, when the burnout fog begins to lift. You're not sprinting yet, not even walking steady, but something inside you stirs, not energy, not ambition, something deeper, a flicker of wanting to care again. This chapter is about that flicker. Burnout strips life bare. It exposes how much of your daily hustle was habit, pressure, or fear dressed up as duty. So when you come back, when you rebuild, you've got a rare chance, a gift even, to build different, to build slow, to build true. Let's walk through it. 1. Start with small steps. Don't rush the comeback. You're not trying to return to normal. You're building a new normal from scratch. Your first step isn't dramatic. It might just be getting up, taking a shower, or writing down one thing you did instead of 10 you didn't. Small steps compound. They stack. And in time, they lead you out of the hole you didn't think had a bottom. 2. Redefine who you are without the noise. When you've been burned out long enough, the silence that follows can feel uncomfortable. You're not numbed by busyness. So what do you do with the stillness? Listen to it. There's a reason Lao Tzu also said, if you realize that all things change, there is nothing you will try to hold on to. The old identity, the one who hustled for approval, who thought exhaustion was worth it to be seen as hardworking, that's dying. Let it. Then ask, who am I when I'm not overworked? What do I actually value when I'm not proving myself? Burnout forces that question. Don't waste it. 3. Accept the rhythm of life. You've been told that faster is better, that growth is linear, that progress is hustle. But nature and the soul doesn't work that way. Healing has seasons. Grief, too. Some days you'll feel lit up with purpose. Other days you'll just sit and stare out the window. Both are okay. The point is to stay with yourself without shame. You're not behind. You're just realigning. 4. Give something away. It may sound backward, but after burnout, giving is one of the best ways to find your footing. Not giving to impress or to please, giving to reconnect. A listening ear, a cup of coffee, a kind word to someone you see struggling. The wise man does not lay up his own treasures. The more he gives to others, the more he has for his own. Lao Tzu. Burnout tells you you're empty. Service proves otherwise. When you pour out a little, just a little, you find you're not as hollow as you thought. 5. Build a simple life around what matters. Most folks don't need a massive reinvention. They need realignment. What can you cut?
What can you stop chasing? As Lao Tzu put it, to attain knowledge, add things every day. To attain wisdom, remove things every day. This might mean downsizing, saying no, or just refusing to keep up with people who weren't heading your direction anyway. Burnout is often a signal that your soul's tired of chasing what never fed you. Now you get to rebuild something quieter, but richer, something sustainable. 6. Be patient, stay present. Last, but maybe most important, don't force the healing. By letting it go, it all gets done. The world is won by those who let it go. That doesn't mean doing nothing. It means you show up, gently, without panic, without pressure. You let peace return in its own time, and you trust that the fire that broke you also cleared space for something better. Let me leave you with this. True wisdom comes to each of us when we realize how little we understand about life, ourselves, and the world around us. Socrates. You were never broken, just powerless and exhausted. Beneath the weight of pretending, overgiving, and forgetting what you were made for. Now it's time to remember. You're not lazy, you're healing. And that is sacred work. Hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you don't miss the next video. We've got a lot more ground to cover, friend, and the road is better walked together.